Before we begin, I want you to imagine something. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your entire life was a lie. Your name, your family, your past, everything. Imagine discovering that the most powerful rulers in the world have spent years searching for you. Not because you're dangerous, not because you're famous, but because you're the one person who could change the fate of every kingdom. If you enjoy stories filled with mystery, romance, betrayals, powerful heroines, and shocking twists, make sure you're subscribed, because tonight's story begins with a baker and ends with a queen. The village of Winterbrook sat beneath endless snow. Hidden between mountains and pine forests, it was the kind of place people forgot existed, and Arwen liked it that way. At 23 years old, she lived a simple life. Every morning before sunrise, she opened the bakery. Every afternoon, she delivered bread. Every evening, she returned to the tiny cottage she shared with her grandfather. Nothing exciting ever happened. Nothing magical. Nothing important. She wasn't a Luna. She wasn't royalty. She wasn't special. At least, that's what she believed. The only unusual thing about Arwen was her sleep. She never dreamed. Not once. Not ever. While everyone else spoke of memories, nightmares, and visions, Arwen slept in complete darkness. It had always been that way, and somehow, it always felt wrong. The storm arrived after sunset, a vicious blizzard. The kind villagers talked about for years afterward. The wind howled through the streets. Snow buried fences. Trees bent beneath the force of it. Most people stayed indoors. Arwen should have done the same. Then she heard it. A cry. Weak. Distant. Outside. At first, she ignored it. Then it came again. A wounded sound. A desperate sound. The sound of something dying. Arwen grabbed a lantern, wrapped herself in a cloak, and stepped into the storm. Visibility was terrible. The snow stung her face. The wind nearly pushed her backward. Then she saw him. A wolf. Massive. Far larger than any ordinary wolf. His black fur was soaked with blood, one leg twisted unnaturally, his breathing shallow, weak. Arwen froze. Every instinct told her to run. Yet something stopped her, something she couldn't explain. The wolf opened one golden eye and looked directly at her. The connection hit instantly, like recognition, like fate, like remembering someone she'd never met. "You poor thing." The words escaped before she realized she'd spoken. The wolf continued staring, silent, watching, waiting. Arwen knelt beside him. The creature was heavy, far too heavy for her to move, yet somehow she managed. An hour later, she dragged him into her cottage. For 3 days, she cared for him. She cleaned his wounds, changed his bandages, fed him, protected him. The wolf never growled, never snapped, never showed fear. Instead, he watched her, constantly, as though he were studying her, trying to understand something. On the 4th morning, the wolf disappeared. Arwen frowned. The blankets beside the fire were empty. The door remained locked. The windows were closed. Nothing made sense. Then she heard footsteps. A man stood inside the cottage, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black winter armor, dark hair dusted with snow, golden eyes, the same eyes as the wolf. Arwen immediately grabbed a knife. The stranger didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink. He simply stared, as though he'd spent years searching for something, and had finally found it. "Who are you?" Arwen demanded. The man swallowed. His expression changed. Not fear, relief, pure relief. Then he did something impossible. He dropped to one knee. Arwen blinked. Certain she imagined it. The stranger lowered his head. "Your Majesty." Silence. Arwen looked behind her, then around the room, then back at him. "Excuse me?" The man finally raised his gaze. Emotion burned inside those golden eyes. "My name is Lucy Nightshade." The name meant nothing to her. "I am Alpha King of the Northern Territories." Arwen laughed. A nervous laugh. The kind people make when reality stops making sense. "You're a king." "Yes, and you're kneeling." "Yes, and you're calling me your Majesty." "Yes," Arwen pointed at herself. "I'm a baker." Lucienne's expression softened. "No." The answer chilled her. "You only think you are." The room suddenly felt smaller. "What does that mean?" Lucien slowly stood, then reached into his coat. Carefully, respectfully, almost fearfully, he removed a bundle wrapped in black cloth and placed it on the table. Arwen frowned. "What is that?" Lucien unfolded the cloth. The moment she saw it, pain exploded inside her head. A crown. Silver. Ancient. Beautiful. Moonstones embedded throughout its design. Strange symbols carved into the metal. The symbols glowed faintly, almost alive. And suddenly, Images flooded her mind. A grand palace, snow falling beyond enormous windows, a woman with silver eyes smiling, a little girl laughing, music, warmth, love, then darkness. The vision vanished instantly. Arwen stumbled backward. Lucien caught her before she fell. The Alpha's face filled with concern. What happened? Arwen stared at the crown, terrified. I've seen that before. Lucien's heart visibly stopped. Where? I don't know. The answer frightened her even more. Because it was true, she remembered it. Yet she didn't. Lucien slowly exhaled. For 20 years he'd searched. 20 years. The same mission, the same promise, the same impossible hope. Because long before Arwen was born, his father had died protecting her, protecting the last heir of the Moon Throne. And now, standing before him, was the girl his father gave his life to save. Before Lucien could explain, a violent crash exploded through the room. The window shattered. Glass flew everywhere. An arrow slammed into the wall, exactly where Arwen had been standing seconds earlier. Lucien's expression transformed instantly. The warmth vanished. The relief vanished. Only the Alpha remained. Deadly. Dangerous. Protective. Another arrow pierced the cottage. Then another. Then another. Lucien shoved Arwen to the floor. Stay down, voices echoed outside, multiple voices. Armed voices. The Alpha's golden eyes darkened because he recognized them, the hunters. The same people who had spent 20 years searching for the lost queen. And unlike Lucien, they didn't want to protect her. They wanted her dead. The first assassin came through the broken window. The second crashed through the front door. The third dropped from the roof. They moved with terrifying precision. Not thieves, not mercenaries, professionals, people sent to kill. Arwen barely had time to scream. Lucien transformed. Bones cracked. Muscles expanded. The cottage trembled. Furniture splintered beneath the force of it. In less than a second, the Alpha King disappeared. A massive black wolf stood in his place. Golden eyes glowing, teeth exposed, pure power, pure violence. The assassins hesitated, only briefly, then they attacked. It was a mistake. The first attacker never reached Arwen. Lucien launched himself forward. The assassin hit the wall so hard it shattered. The second swung a silver blade. Lucien dodged, then struck. The man collapsed instantly. The third tried to escape. He almost succeeded. Almost. Moments later, silence returned. The storm continued outside. But inside the cottage, only Arwen's rapid breathing remained. Lucien transformed back. Blood stained his armor. None of it belonged to him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Arwen whispered, "They were trying to kill me." Lucien's expression darkened. Yes, why? The Alpha looked away. Because the answer was something she wasn't ready to hear. Yet. 3 hours later, they left Winterbrook. There was no choice. The assassins knew where she lived. Others would come. More dangerous, more determined. Arwen spent the first day of travel in silence, trying to process everything, trying to convince herself this wasn't real. Unfortunately, reality refused to cooperate. By sunset, they reached the Frostpine Forest. The trees towered above them, ancient, silent, covered in snow. Lucien built a fire while Arwen sat nearby, watching the flames, thinking. Finally, she asked the question, "Who am I?" The Alpha stopped moving. Not because he didn't know the answer, because he did, and the truth would change everything. You are Arwen Alira Moonborn. The name felt strange. Powerful. Ancient. Lucien continued, "Last heir of the Moon Throne." The fire crackled softly. 20 years ago, your family ruled all wolf kingdoms. Arwen stared. No, Lucien nodded. Yes, she laughed nervously. This is insane. It is. And you expect me to believe it? The Alpha met her gaze. No. The answer surprised her. I expect you to discover it yourself. For the first time, Arwen believed him. Not because of his words. Because of his eyes. He wasn't trying to convince her. He was trying to protect her. And somehow, that felt different. The next morning they resumed traveling. The farther north they went, the stranger things became. Arwen started recognizing places she'd never seen before. A frozen waterfall, a ruined watchtower, an abandoned shrine. Every location triggered memories, tiny flashes, tiny pieces. Never enough, just enough to hurt. On the fourth day, they reached a mountain pass. Halfway across, Arwen froze. A memory hit her. A little girl, riding through the same pass, laughing, holding someone's hand. The vision vanished instantly, but the feeling remained. She had been there before. Years ago, long before Winterbrook. That night, they stopped beside a frozen lake. Snow drifted gently across the surface. Moonlight illuminated the ice. Beautiful, silent, dangerous. Lucienne sat across from her, watching the fire. Arwen noticed something. For days he'd protected her, fought for her, stayed awake while she slept. Yet he'd never asked for anything, not once. "Why are you doing this?" Lucienne looked up. "Because it's my duty." The answer came too quickly. Too rehearsed, too safe. Arwen narrowed her eyes. That's not the real reason. The Alpha looked away, and for the first time, she saw pain. Real pain. Finally, he spoke. "My father died protecting you." Silence. Arwen felt her heart stop. "What?" Lucienne stared into the flames. "When the moon throne fell," his voice became quieter. "My father was one of the royal guardians." Arwen listened carefully. "He helped Gareth escape with you." The name immediately caught her attention. "Gareth?" Lucienne nodded. "The man who raised you." The world tilted. "My grandfather?" A sad smile appeared. "Not your grandfather." Arwen's pulse accelerated. "What do you mean?" Before Lucienne could answer, a voice emerged from the darkness. "He means me!" Arwen jumped to her feet. A figure stepped into the firelight. Old, strong, familiar. The breath left her lungs. "Grandpa?" The old baker smiled sadly. The smile she'd known her entire life. The smile that suddenly felt like a lie. "I'm sorry, little star." The nickname hit harder than any weapon. Tears immediately filled Arwen's eyes. "Who are you?" The old man lowered his head. "My name is Gareth Thorne." Lucienne stood respectfully. Because everyone knew that name. Everyone. The greatest royal guardian in history. A warrior believed dead for 2 decades, a legend, and the man who had hidden a queen. For 20 years. Arwen felt betrayed, angry, heartbroken, yet beneath all of it, she understood. Every bedtime story, every lesson, every warning. None of it had been accidental. Gareth had been preparing her, her entire life. For this moment, the old Alpha reached into his coat, then removed a silver pendant. The moment Arwen saw it, everything exploded. A palace, a throne, a woman with silver eyes, a crown, her mother. The memory hit with brutal force. She heard screaming, fire, war, and her mother's voice, "Protect her." Then another voice, "Gareth, I swear it." The memory vanished. Arwen collapsed to her knees. Tears streamed down her face, because for the first time, she remembered her mother. Not clearly, not completely, but enough to know one thing. Everything Lucienne said was true, and if that was true, then something else was true as well. The people hunting her weren't finished. Because somewhere beyond the mountains, a king sat upon a stolen throne, a king who had spent 20 years searching for the missing heir, a king named Malric Ashbourne. And at that very moment, a messenger knelt before him. "Your Majesty." Malric looked up. The messenger swallowed. "We found her." For the first time in 20 years, the Wolf King's smile appeared. Cold, cruel, terrifying. Prepare the army. The hunt was over, and the war for the queen was about to begin. If you discovered your entire life was built on a lie, would you want the truth, even if it shattered everything you believed? Or would you choose to remain the person you've always been? Tell me below. And if you're ready for the final chapter, where memories return, kingdoms go to war, betrayals are revealed, and Arwen must choose between a throne and the man she loves, make sure you're subscribed. Because the ending changes everything. The capital of Valemere rose from the snow like a dream. Massive walls stretched toward the mountains. Silver banners fluttered in the winter wind. Ancient towers pierced the clouds. And for the first time in 20 years, the queen had returned. Yet Arwen felt no triumph, no excitement, no sense of destiny, only fear. Because the closer she came to the truth, the more she realized how much had been stolen from her. Her childhood, her family, her kingdom, her memories. 20 years, gone. The city gates opened as Lucienne, Gareth, and Arwen approached. Thousands of citizens lined the streets. Whispers spread immediately. People pointed. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Because they knew. Not how. Not why. But somehow they knew. The queen had returned. Arwen hated the attention. She wanted to disappear, to run, to return to Winterbrook, to become a baker again. But that life was gone, and deep down, she knew it. The royal council assembled that evening. Every alpha ruler, every noble house, every military commander. The atmosphere felt tense, dangerous, because not everyone was happy to see Arwen alive. Some had built entire kingdoms upon her disappearance. Others feared what her return meant, and one man feared it more than anyone. King Malric Ashbourne, the Wolf King, the conqueror who had spent 20 years ruling through fear. The man responsible for destroying the Moon Throne. The man who murdered her family. Unfortunately, he wasn't far away. 3 days later, the scouts returned, exhausted, terrified. An army was marching toward the capital. Not hundreds, not thousands, tens of thousands. The largest wolf army assembled in a generation, and at its head, King Malric himself. The city erupted into panic. People rushed through the streets, soldiers prepared defenses, blacksmiths worked day and night. War had arrived, and everyone knew why. Arwen, the final heir, the final threat to Malric's reign. That night, Arwen stood alone atop the city wall. Snow drifted gently around her. The mountains stretched endlessly beyond the horizon. Lucien found her there, as he always seemed to. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Arwen whispered, "I'm scared." Lucien smiled softly. "Good," she frowned. "Good." The Alpha nodded. "The brave aren't people who feel no fear." He stepped beside her. "They're the people who move forward anyway." Silence followed. Comfortable silence. Then Arwen asked the question she'd been avoiding. "What happens if I fail?" Lucien looked towards the stars. "Then we fail together." The answer hit harder than she expected, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't alone, and that terrified her even more. The battle began at dawn. The sky was gray, the air bitterly cold. Snow covered the battlefield. Thousands of wolves stood beyond the city walls. A sea of armor, steel, and death. At their center stood Malric Ashbourne. Arwen immediately recognized him. Tall, broad-shouldered, silver armor, cold black eyes, a monster disguised as a king. The moment he saw her, he smiled, and somehow that smile frightened her more than the army. Hours passed. The battle raged. Wolves clashed. Soldiers fell. Arrows darkened the sky. The city shook beneath the violence. Then something unexpected happened. Malric didn't attack the walls. Instead, he rode forward alone, stopping between both armies. His voice echoed across the battlefield. "Arwen Moonborn." The name sent chills through the crowd. Malric smiled. "For 20 years I've searched for you." Arwen stepped forward. The city wall suddenly felt very small. "Why?" The king laughed. "Because a living queen threatens everything I built." Silence spread. Then Malric revealed the truth. The massacre, the betrayal, the war. Everything. He admitted it proudly, without shame, without regret, because he genuinely believed he had saved the kingdoms. The crowd listened in horror. Then Malric spoke the words that changed everything. "Your mother wasn't protecting you." Arwen froze. The king smiled. "She was protecting us." Confusion spread through the battlefield. Malric continued. "Your power was never sealed to save your life." His eyes darkened. "It was sealed because she feared what you could become." The world seemed to stop. Arwen's pulse thundered. "What are you talking about?" For the first time, Malric looked afraid, genuinely afraid. The queen commands wolves." The battlefield fell silent. Not through loyalty. Another pause. Through blood. No one moved. No one breathed. Malric's voice became quieter. "A fully awakened queen can command every wolf alive." The realization hit like lightning. Friend, enemy alpha, king, everyone. That was the true power of the Moon Throne. That was why her mother sealed it away. That was why kingdoms feared her. And suddenly, the final memory returned. Not a fragment, not a glimpse, everything. Her mother, the palace, the attack, the magic, the sacrifice, all of it. Arwen dropped to her knees. Silver light erupted around her. The battlefield exploded into chaos. The crown hidden within the capital began glowing. The wind roared. Snow spiraled into the sky. And for the first time in 20 years, the queen awakened. Malric's smile vanished. Fear replaced it. Because he finally understood. He hadn't been hunting a girl. He had been hunting a force of nature. Then Lucien screamed. Arwen looked up. Too late. A hidden assassin emerged from the crowd. The blade struck Lucien directly. The Alpha collapsed. Time stopped. Everything vanished. The armies. The snow. The battlefield. Only Lucien remained. The man who searched for her. The man who protected her. The man who loved her. Blood stained the snow. And something inside Arwen broke. The queen's power exploded outward. A wave of silver light swept across the battlefield. Every wolf froze, every alpha froze, every king froze. Then one by one, they knelt. Thousands, tens of thousands against their will. Against their pride. Against everything, they knelt. Because the queen had returned. And no wolf could deny her. Not even Malric. The Wolf King fell to his knees. Horror filled his face. Because for the first time in his life, he was powerless. The war ended in silence. No final battle, no last charge, no dramatic victory, only truth and the return of a queen. Days later, the kingdoms gathered inside the Grand Hall. Peace had finally arrived. Yet one final decision remained. Ancient law demanded the queen marry another ruler, a political marriage, a strategic alliance, a sacrifice for stability. Not Lucienne, never Lucienne. The hall waited. Thousands watched. Arwen stood before the throne, the crown in her hands, the future of every kingdom resting upon her decision. Then she did something nobody expected. She placed the crown upon the throne. Not her head, the throne. Shock spread across the hall. Arwen toward the gathered rulers. Her voice echoed clearly. If a kingdom requires me to abandon the man I love, silence. Then the kingdom needs a new law. No one moved, no one spoke. Then Arwen walked directly toward Lucienne. The Alpha looked stunned. For once in his life, speechless, Arwen smiled. I choose him. The hall erupted. Some shouted, some protested, some stared in disbelief. Then something unexpected happened. One Alpha knelt, then another, then another. Soon hundreds followed, because after 20 years, the kingdoms didn't need a perfect queen. They needed the right one. And for the first time, they had her. That night, snow fell gently across the capital. Citizens celebrated in every street. Music echoed through the city. Laughter filled the air. And high above it all, Arwen stood beside Lucienne. No crown, no throne, no war. Just peace, just love, just the future. The future they would build together. And somewhere beyond the falling snow, the legend of the lost queen finally came to an end. Before you go, I have one final question. If you had to choose between power and love, what would you choose? Tell me below. And if this story kept you hooked until the very end, subscribe and join us for the next adventure. Because another kingdom, another mystery, and another unforgettable love story is waiting beyond the snow.